Just let me know when you're all ready. So good afternoon. Thank you all for coming. We just wanted to give you an update on the previous 72 hours, talk a little bit about what our plans are, and also just talk directly to the community and about asking for some help and recognizing that we know that there are folks in the community that know their community members, know each other, and can help stem the violence that we've seen in the last 72 hours, which is unacceptable, which we cannot have. Everybody deserves to be safe, and we cannot see what we've seen in the last 72 hours. So just to give a little bit of a recap of what has happened, in the last 3 days, what we've had is that on Monday the 10th, at about 1:40 in the morning, we received a call. Just keep in mind the call that we received was actually for an auto accident. We responded to the 200 block of Yates Street for a person that was unresponsive in a vehicle. Our officers responded, and they ultimately located Quadir Hoffler, 21 years old, who was inside the vehicle, and he had a gunshot wound to his head. He unfortunately is deceased. Further investigation from that was that he was driving away from that area and had hit another vehicle. We had no call for shots fired. I just want to make that clear that night. So I would also ask that anytime anybody hears something, anybody sees something, to call us no matter what it is. We investigate anytime we get a call for shots fired. Anytime somebody hears a loud bang, we do an in-depth investigation into any of those calls. Sometimes we get calls for loud bangs that aren't shots fired, and we make sure we track that, we make sure we look into that. So we always ask for the community's help in any time that they hear or see something. The quicker we can get someplace, the better off we are. As a community, the safer we are. That investigation is very active. We are following through on leads. Our detectives are very active in that. I'm not going to be able to get into a lot of the details at this moment, but at the end of the day, I'm confident that we will get to where we need to get in that case. It may take some time. Sometimes these cases do, but I'm confident that we will get where we need to get. Later on Monday, at about 11:35 in the morning, we had two incidents that really coincided with each other. They were really one incident. They just took place in a spread out area. But we got a call to Madison Avenue and Trinity Place and Grandin Market at around 11:35 in the morning. At Madison and Trinity, we had shots fired. A storefront's window got shot out, and then around the corner at Grandin Market, we had a 19-year-old that had got shot in the hip area. He is in stable condition. He was treated and released at the hospital. That was all related. That shooting happened from a vehicle that drove by and shot that area up. That again remains a very active investigation, and I'm confident that we will figure out who was in that vehicle, what was behind that, and how that happened. And then last night in the area of Myrtle and Grand, at about 6:25 in the evening, we had two juveniles, 13 and 14 years old, that were walking down the street in their neighborhood, and they were shot by somebody who was walking by them. One juvenile was shot in the leg, the 14-year-old, and the other 13-year-old was shot in the upper leg area with a graze wound. Thankfully, they are both okay. We do not know what the cause of that was. They were two kids being kids, walking down the street, doing what any of us would have been doing at 13 or 14 years old at 6:30 in the evening, hanging out. Again, we have an active investigation happening into that, and we will, I'm confident, get to the bottom of that. That is completely unacceptable. It's unacceptable for anybody to be shot. but it is completely unacceptable for somebody, for 13 and a 14-year-old to get shot in this city. When it comes to investigating shootings and people involved in violence, we look at things in kind of two ways, people and places. We know that we have a small group of people in our city that are usually involved in our violence, and that small group of people we are concentrating on and will bring to justice and keep them from committing acts of violence. So we're going to concentrate on that group. We also know that that small group of people act in very certain places in our city. And we know that the places that they acted, especially in the last two shootings, Monday morning shooting, the 11:35 a.m. shooting, and the shooting last night, tend to go to certain areas to look for others that are involved in violence. Again, the victims from last night would not be intended targets, but they tend to go to certain areas and create issues. And those places, we have already increased our police activity, and we will continue to increase our police activity to ensure these incidents do not happen again. We are working with the community in specifically the Mansion Hill, South End, downtown area, the community and the businesses down there to ensure folks are safe and secure and that we cannot have that. We want to certainly ask today for folks to pay attention to what's happening. And again, I'm not talking about our kids from last night, but certainly this brings back memories to me of what we've seen in the past, in a past time with our younger kids getting involved in violence and acting out. So I'm certainly appealing, and the mayor's appealing to our community, to our parents, to our partners, to folks that know our younger kids that may do things without thinking, that they pay attention to what's happening with our youth, what our youth are doing, what our youth might engage in, and help us to make sure that our youth are safe and that our youth don't do something that can either get them injured or cause them to injure somebody else. No one needs that to happen, and that's the last thing that we want happening. So we're taking all the steps we can to ensure that that does not happen. However, we know that the community and people that love those individuals can keep that from happening in many ways better than we can. So I would ask that that happen as well.
Thanks, Chief, and I want to reiterate, we need help from the community. There are people who know who these individuals or individual is or are, and it's important that we are able to work with the community to ensure that we are keeping everyone safe. We have been fortunate in that we have not seen this type of activity in a while. This has been, but this is why we are stressing the importance of it now, early on, because it is incredibly concerning, particularly when we see young people involved in this type of activity. And so we had started to really look at the types of arrests that we were making of youth. We are arresting far fewer juveniles, but those that we are arresting for more serious offenses. And so this has been an ongoing collaboration with Albany City School District and with other partners and with the programs that the police department has and the work that it does to reach out to young people. And yet we've seen this culmination of what has happened over the last 72 hours, which is why we want to get out in front of it. We want to stress that this is serious. We want to stress that it's important that we have cooperation, that we not normalize gun violence. This is not normal for any place, and it shouldn't be normal in any neighborhood in the city of Albany. And so we want to ensure that the neighborhoods that are being impacted know that we have increased our police presence in those neighborhoods, that this is not acceptable in any neighborhood in the city of Albany, and that we can't do this without the help of our community. It's incumbent upon all of us to make our city safe. And so I just encourage people, you can reach out anonymously. You can reach out in any way that you feel comfortable, but it's very important. There are those in our community I'm quite certain, who know who these individuals are who are engaged in this activity. And ultimately, we need to ensure that we stop it, and we need to ensure that we put people on a path to being diverted from this type of violent behavior. And so we're really asking the community to please reach out. Again, the chief can share, and you can find on our website the various ways that you can contact us and let us know if you have any information that would allow us to ensure that we are not having any more of this type of violence in any neighborhood in the city.
Chief, can you comment on whether any of the shooting incidents this week were captured on surveillance video?
I'm not gonna go into what we do or do not have on video, but video is always one of the investigative tools that we utilize to investigate these incidents.
3 people were shot, well, 4 people shot. One of them is deceased. The three people who survived, are they being cooperative?
Yes, everyone's cooperative.
Is there any reason to believe that they were deliberately targeted, or are you labeling this random?
What I would say is that our areas were not random. I certainly would say that our 2 youth from last night do not appear to have been targets of violence. I think our incident from Monday morning is much more under review as far as the exact circumstances of that.
Mr. Hoffler, was he shot from inside the car, or if the shot came from outside the car, presumably the car window was open when police arrived?
Yeah, I'm not going to get too far into the details of the shooting itself.
We spoke with members of the community, and then they relayed questions that they had for you, Chief Cox. Some of them were saying that they would like to bring back or at least ramp up community policing. They also said that they would like to have more patrols around the area of Myrtle and Grand. And they said that they would also like more patrols around the south end. What is the status of any sort of supervision that we have in those areas, and are those requests classified?
So we are increasing patrols in those areas right now as we speak. So those patrols have been increased. I'm a huge proponent of community policing. That is our philosophy. And we do want to increase the way that we provide community policing efforts. I would like to increase our beat officers and our beat presence. That does require some staffing, and that is active recruiting that we currently have going on right now.
And this may be more of a question for the mayor. One of the residents were saying that she would like to see more facilities and activities in our city downtown for people to have things to do. They would also like more jobs, housing, and community centers in that area. I know that there will be a new administration coming by next January, but do you hope that the next mayor can put those things in place, or are there mechanisms in place right now to help those requests?
So we've built hundreds of units of affordable housing in the area that has been impacted most recently in the South End. We are in the process of rebuilding the Hoffman Community Center, which is in the South End, and completely revamping that. We're working with the school district to identify a location once that Hoffman closes, which it is going to close within the next couple of months here as we start construction of a new community center there. So we're looking at locating either in one of the middle schools or elementary schools at the South End. We have typically on any given teen night, 70 young people that are engaged. We have anywhere from 30 to 70 that come after school every day to that community center. And so we want to ensure that we have a place for that to continue to happen. And, with respect to seeing investment in that area, as you know, the governor has announced an initiative to invest in our downtown. The area that we're talking about is an area that we have flooded with police resources. We've worked with business owners. We've improved lighting. We've worked to ensure that we are engaged with the community. Trinity Alliance, which is a community center, is literally located a block from where this activity has taken place. And so, we continue to work with those partners. Our SNUG, which is our initiative to ensure that we are working to de-escalate and to prevent gun violence is based out of this, again, this very area of the city that we're talking about. And I think that demonstrates that this is a real challenge when you have individuals who, for whatever reason, have it in their mind to go and cause chaos. It's incredibly challenging, but it is a very small number of people. And there are people in the community who know who these individuals are. And we want to do everything that we can to intervene before it rises to this level. And so when somebody reaches out to this police department to say, I've got a teenager, they're going in the wrong direction, I can assure you that you are going to get a response that is going to be problem solving and focused on how to ensure that that young person has the opportunity to engage in these very activities that I've talked about. And so there's always more that we can do, but there is a lot that we are doing. And the challenge is that we don't have families connecting with the resources that are there. And that is also a hugely important part of the work that we need to continue to do.
Mayor, given those statements, given the frustration and the frightening feelings that must exist in the community, is it reasonable for people to think that gun violence will just vanish?
Well, look, I think that if the expectation is that anyone sitting behind the mayor's desk at 24 Eagle Street can eliminate gun violence, they will be sorely disappointed. We've had gun violence. Gun violence was with us before I became mayor. And sadly, I worry that gun violence will continue after I'm mayor. What we can do is ensure that we are responding to the community, listening to the community, providing the resources that both law enforcement and our other departments say that they need in order to ensure that young people are on a path to opportunity, not on a path to violence, or, as we say, right, the school to prison pipeline. We've made tremendous strides in getting young people out of that path, and it shows in our arrests. Far fewer young people, far fewer juveniles starting down that path, but we do have challenges. And when you have concentrations of poverty, when you have families that are struggling, when you have families that are dealing with mental illness and substance use disorders, it's incumbent upon us as a community to come together and ensure that we're doing all that we can to provide that support. But, I'm not a superhero. I don't have a cape. We have streets that have been flooded with guns. People can now make guns with 3D printers. And so we have a gun problem in this country. And it's not just in the city of Albany. We have a gun problem in this country. And it is everywhere, and it is pervasive, and it is perceived as a solution that if everybody's armed, then we will all be safe. And we all know that that is not the case. And we are living it out in our city, but it's also being played out in cities and communities across this country. And so I think there are, macro issues at hand with respect to the proliferation of guns and the messaging that we get about carrying a gun. Shouldn't even have to have a permit to carry a gun, right? So we have that messaging out there. But then at our community level, I feel much more hope. I don't feel hopeless. I feel very hopeful because we do have resources. We are continuing to build out resources. We're building 2 new community centers. The Lincoln Park Pool is going to reopen. It is going to be a world-class recreational facility, aquatics facility here in the city of Albany. We have the programming that the police department has. We have our summer youth employment program. We have so many positives happening in our city. If we come together as a community and say it's not okay to carry a gun when you're 12, 13, 14 years old, we can overcome this, but it's going to take the entire community, not just one person.
Chief, you mentioned there's a specific group of people. Are you referring to gangs? And do you believe that these shootings are connected?
So I believe the shootings are connected in a way that there are people in places. So I believe that the small group of people that are involved in shooting are the same people, and I believe they're tied in by the places that they're shooting. So yes, I do think they're tied in. Whether or not each shooting is tied into each other, that's still under investigation, as far as that goes. Do I believe this has something to do with our traditional uptown, downtown? It's been talked about here for as long as I can ever remember. Do I believe that from early investigation? Yeah, and that's why we're trying to make the appeal we're trying to make today. It's because I know that there are people in the community that can influence that very greatly.
Chief, do you think if it is, again, part of this uptown, downtown issue that's running forever, are you anticipating, or are you doing anything to prevent something happening uptown, as, some sort of retaliation for the violence in downtown?
So, yeah, so we have our resources out there. So we have our resources out there both from a patrol standpoint, so we are visible, and then we are doing a lot behind closed doors to do outreach to people that we believe may be involved, and also talking to our other partners. We're obviously giving it very publicly here, but also talking to our other partners that know people that have influence to make sure that they are talking to people that may be involved. So we are doing both of those things as well.
And can I just add, this is all part of strategies that exist within this department that do not require that we reinvent the wheel. This is how we respond. And so those responses are happening, they're taking place. And I think, to the question about, who sits in the chair of the mayor, I think it's really important for any political, whether you're a mayor, a supervisor, to listen to the professionals. And we have strategies in place. That is where a mayor can be effective. A mayor can be effective in ensuring that they are advocating for and funding what works. And this department focuses on strategies that have been demonstrated to work. And there are always opportunities to bring in more programs. There are always new ideas. There's new research out there about what works. But I think the role that, I see as a mayor that I am responsible for is ensuring that I'm listening to those who are in this space, doing this work, doing the intervention, right? Using the strategies to de-escalate and to prevent retaliation, and ensuring that those are funded. And that is what I've done for 11 plus years, and I'll continue to do it until I'm done.
Chief, do you know, in the shooting of the teenagers, do you suspect it to be another teenager that shot them, or older adult?
Still under investigation. We do not know yet.
And why do you have so much emphasis on the youth in the city with guns? Are you at all, or what's the comparison level of worry with adults with guns in the city?
I don't want everybody to have a gun.
Yeah.
That's my worry. My worry right now is that these shootings in particular happen to all be youth. And I certainly look at, our oldest victim right now that we're aware of is 21. So I certainly look at that as all youth. So this is all very youth focused, but I prefer no one to have a gun.
Is a big bit, I'm sorry.
No, and I was going to say, if you go back and you look at the last 2 years, fewer than 10% of our shooting victims and fewer than 10% of those who we arrested for shooting were juveniles. And so that's why here it is, February, we're not even to the middle of February yet. And we have seen this activity, which is why we're out here now, out in front of it, talking about it and saying, this is something different than what we have seen. And we need to ensure that the community knows and that there are people out there in these children's lives who can put them on a different path, and we need them to help us.
There's a big message board in front of this building right now urging people to take the police exam. I'm wondering what impact, if any, might a full staffing of officers have on this issue?
Well, I want to be clear that the first impact there is on gun violence is at home. That's the first impact. I've talked about this the first time I was here. I actually remember, you might be the only one in this room that could remember this. I don't know if you were here. But we had a large takedown of a group. We arrested about 35 people. And if I remember correctly, we had gotten from that takedown, and the men and women in this department and our partners in that efforts, it was a partnership with the New York State Attorney General at the time, did a fantastic job in that takedown. And I say takedown, it was a large scale enforcement effort. It's part of the pie here. But we arrested like 35 people. And I think we took 3 guns off the street from that. Very good. But at the same time, that same day, I had a community partner that came in with 5 guns to say, hey, here's 5 guns that somebody entrusted in me to take off the street. So I know the power of the community partnership. I know the power of what a parent can do. And again, I'm not saying that to lay blame on anybody either. I happen to be a parent. I know that can be very difficult. But at the end of the day, like, I know that power. So we can't lay everything on the fact that we have a staffing issue. If I had a full staff right now, back to the community policing conversation, would there be more officers out on beats? Absolutely. When I left here, there were 27 officers that were out walking a beat. There's not 27 officers walking a beat right now. I can tell you right now that if I was at 342 officers, there would be 27 officers walking a beat right now, because I know that worked. So that would happen. But it would also happen in the efforts, many of the efforts that have happened over the last 8 years when I left. Many efforts that came into place that are really good efforts. So, you know, there's a lot of other things that come into play. But yeah, join the APD.com. Join the APD.com. Please take the test. This is a great job. It's a great profession. We need more people. We also have other jobs, dispatcher jobs. There's jobs right downstairs that we desperately need people for. So absolutely, that all comes into play.
Chief, going off of that topic, can you confirm to us how many vacancies are in the APD and efforts your department is making to increase recruitment? Like, are you tabling at local colleges, universities, anything like that?
Yeah. So we are 79 police positions vacant right now. We are currently working off of an active civil service test right now to hire and bring in a new class. We just had a physical agility test on Super Bowl Sunday. We had a whole group of people come in, both from our officers to give the test and a whole group of people that braved our, whatever we want to call that, snowstorm on Sunday morning to come in and take the physical agility test. So we're hoping to hire a group from that as soon as we possibly can. We have a test coming up in May. The deadline for that is April. Join APD.com. That is listed. We are giving a second test later on this year. I guess I'm going to put a little pressure on the state right now. We're meeting with the state later on this month to talk to them about changing some civil service rules so we can do some innovative things here within the city, because we are bound by civil service laws and we need to change the antiquated rules that exist within civil service. I'm sorry, Mayor. Apologies now. Because the simple fact of the matter is the generation that exists now doesn't want to take a test, have to wait 3 months to take a test, wait another 3 or 4 months to get a score back, and then wait 5 months to get hired. So we need to give continuous testing, be able to get a score back, start the hiring process, and say, young man or young woman, you're now an Albany police officer. Welcome to the job, and we can train you. That's the reason why we have our own police academy. That's the reason why we do our own training. That's the reason why we can acclimate somebody to this community immediately. Those are the kind of things we need to do, especially when 20-year-olds now can go on Indeed.com or LinkedIn and apply for jobs and find out immediately. We got to move into the 21st century, and we need the help of the state to do that. And I'm hoping to get that help in a couple of weeks.
Speaking of help from the
Next
state,
question.
I'm wondering if it can be more complicated than this, Mayor, but if the recent $400 million the governor says she's given to Albany, half of that going to update the state museum, if you would have hoped some more of that would have gone to either fortifying businesses or offsetting some of the fears they have with the violence, or to help the Albany Police, or just something to counteract all the rising violence in Albany.
I think that the 200 million that is earmarked for downtown, a very specific area of downtown, is a down payment. And I'm hoping that it will, and my expectation is that it's going to catalyze between $500 million and $1 billion of private investment. And as we have more feet on the street and more people in the very neighborhoods that we're talking about, that also helps to create safety. And so we need to respond to the challenge that we face right now with a lot more remote work, fewer eyes, and fewer feet on the street to address those issues. But I'm confident that once we see what we are able to accomplish with that investment of $200 million, that's just a down payment. And so we will continue to advocate for economic development dollars and for investment in the city of Albany, and that we'll continue to see the private interest and private investment that it's my full expectation will come alongside that funding. And so, part of it is for public safety. Yes, we need to hire more officers. Yes, we need to think differently about policing, and look at other tools and resources that are available so that those who are sworn can be focused on the job that we want our sworn officers to do, and we can take some stuff off their plate. We keep talking about that, and we've been successful in doing that. And so this never is static, right? There's never a time where we're going to sit down and say, oh, good, we're done. Now we don't have to do anything for 20 years. This is going to be constantly moving, but I'm confident that $200 million will spur not only private investment, but then we'll be able to create the opportunity to have more dollars for economic development.
Chief, just one last question. I understand that in the Yates Street incident, first responders arrived there around 1:40. Do we have an idea exactly when that shooting took place, though, before first responders arrived?
Probably happened closer to midnight. And that's why I say, people hear things, people see things. I would ask them to call us as soon as possible.
Do you think that businesses around Large Street were asking if there could be more check-ins, as the police department has done in the past? Do you think that needs to be ramped up or continue to address some of the violence there? Because a lot of businesses are concerned about the impact that violence will have on people even wanting to shop there.
There's been ongoing check-ins on Lark Street. There's been daily check-ins on Lark Street businesses. That's been ongoing every day.
Thanks.
Thanks, folks.
Thank you all.
Okay.